All right. So a very warm good morning and good afternoon, depending upon the time zone you are in. I'm Kuldeep, Senior Strategist at Enalito Automation. I'm really delighted to welcome our panelist at today's North America D2C Brand Summit. And it's a privilege to have all these amazing entrepreneurs with us who are doing some amazing things with their businesses. And we look forward to knowing their stories, their learnings, their mistakes, and their vision and mission for their brand. We have Wes with us, we have Juan with us, we have Don with us. And before we begin, I would like to make a very brief introduction about them. And they definitely are going to talk about their brand in a while. So let me begin with a very formal introduction of our panelists this morning. So first we have on the panel is Juan Chavez. Juan is the CEO at JMC Automotive Equipment based out of New York. And his company was founded in 2006 to provide unique automotive equipment at affordable prices. And they have a team of highly experienced individuals and with inventory from for the automotive equipment, and they are able to do complete justice to their offering. And we would love to know more from Juan about their business. Juan, welcome to the panel. Thank you for joining.
Thank you, Kuldeep. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have on the panel is Wes Horbatuck. I hope I pronounced that correctly, Wes. Thank you.
Yep.
Wes is the founder of Driftline, and to talk a little bit about Wes, Wes has majored in finance and accounting at Elon University in North Carolina, and his MBA from New York University. He later worked in the family mortgage and insurance business, and he has started this business, Driftline, inspired by a deep love for the ocean. And Driftline creates innovative activewear that's built for maximum performance in any water sport. And the product's aim is to redefine the aquatic experience that can help the consumers with the water sport. Wes, great to have you on the panel.
Thanks for having me.
Wonderful. Next we have on the panel is Don Pillsbury. Don is the VP of Marketing and E-commerce at Jiminy's and based out of San Francisco. And Don has wore several hats throughout his career. And I mean, in this at Jiminy's, they make sustainable pet foods and treats using cricket protein. And Jiminy's products nourish the pets and promote long-term stewardship for the earth. Their products are human grade, made with the best ingredients that are carefully chosen to enhance the pet's health and happiness. And previously, Don has experience, he has been the VP of e-commerce previously at Beauty Encounter. Then he has worked at company Rothy's as head of retention, and so on and so forth. A lot Don has done in the past. So we look forward to learning more from Don. Don, welcome to the panel. Great to have you.
Thank you very much. Great to be here.
Great. Gentlemen, let me begin with the first question that I have for all of you is purpose. What is the purpose of your brand? Why I ask this is because that's the single most important thing, because when you are running a business, it's a marathon, and it's a long-term effort. It takes years to build a brand and trust with the consumers. So the purpose is the only thing that keeps us moving every day. So that's where I would like to begin with. What's the purpose of yourself as well as for your business? Let me begin with Wes to begin with.
That's a great question. I actually think there's two ways that I can take this. The purpose of our brand and of my brand was actually started because of the purpose of what I feel is personal for myself. I was never really fulfilled in the I would almost call it the 9 to 5, even though I was working more than that. But I felt that there was purpose outside of that to be driven to create a product or to create an idea that I felt was my own and to take it into the consumer's hands and to be able to redefine the way that honestly modern consumers utilize products these days. I just like really innovative technology. I like really innovative products. And I was always looking and searching for something and finally stumbled across what I found as purpose in my brand. And just to give a little bit more explanation, and Kuldeep, you did a great job explaining it. I'm actually, to boil it down, I'm in the apparel world. I have a patented technology where I have it's a wetsuit lined board short pretty much. It sounds simple because it's a board short, but we actually found a space within the active aquatic apparel world where no one was innovating. And the purpose of our brand was to kind of bring awareness to a industry that hadn't been innovated in a while. We filled a void and we were able to expand that. And now our real purpose is to focus on the sport. And what I mean by that is really to drive people to be able to take their mind out of what they're going, or take their mind outside of like the things that don't really matter and focus on their action. So for instance, Steve Jobs used to always wear the same clothing all the time because he really wanted to focus on his technology, his projects, whatever he was working on, because he didn't want the frivolities to distract him. Right. We feel the same way with ourselves, where we created a product that allows you to feel comfortable and active in the water without having to worry about things like getting cold, getting chafed, and feeling uncomfortable. So our purpose is to really focus and create mental clarity on your sport.
Wow, that's very, very thoughtful, I must say, Wes. Very, very, because it's this attention to details. That's what defines how your brand cares for the consumers, because it's so easy these days to launch a company or to launch a D2C site and then have products sourced from somewhere. But it's like the way you are putting that attention, that's what defines the experience, because most of the time consumers won't even tell you that how are they feeling about your brand, but when they start using it, they'll love it. And when the time is right, they definitely go ahead and do that. But it's that consistency and the attention to detail, that the way you are putting into your product, that's what really, really is amazing. I mean, I'm so glad to hear that you're putting in that effort and the technology that you have patented. Excellent. Let me go to Juan. And Juan, if you can share your purpose, go ahead.
So basically, I started the company back in 2009, right? My father was an automotive equipment salesperson in New York, and he was only able to visit about 10 people a day, right? Yeah. When I came in, I told him, I was like, hey, let's start a website where so instead of just reaching 10 people a day, we could reach thousands of people a day, right? So my purpose at first was to help my father out, to build a family business. And little by little, for example, the way I am, it was like, all right, how do I get better every day, whether it's economically, professionally, financially, relationship wise, and that carried on to the team that I built. I also want the same thing for them. And that also, the way we are is like, basically, I mean, the word is Kaizen, right? Getting better every day at different aspects of your life. That also carried on to our clientele, right? How do we make them better as business owners with the equipment that we sell, right? How do we make them more efficient? How do we bring in more clients to them, right? So that is really our purpose, right? Having basically having a family brand that can help other businesses in the automotive industry, become better at what they do. That is my true purpose it carries on from me to my team and to our clientele as well.
Wow, that's excellent, Juan, I must say, because it's something very noble. I think something that you care for your consumers. It's almost like that you consider this as a greatest service, and I think this is extremely rewarding, because I think this is what the world that we are living in. Brands care for their consumers in those details. Excellent. I really
Exactly.
appreciate that.
Thank
Let me
you.
go to Don also, and let's hear his thoughts on his brand's purpose currently.
Yeah, so I sort of have my own purpose that kind of transcends all the companies I've recently worked for, and then I can talk a little bit about Jiminy's. But for me, what I've tried to do in the last 10 or 15 years is just to line up with companies and brands that have a truly differentiated and clear purpose or mission that sticks out in the marketplace. And it just makes rallying the team and building the business, if you have kind of a cause behind it, so much easier, and the messaging and everything you say and the meaning for your consumers. So I work for a company called American Giant. We made in the US, high quality apparel. Wes, I don't know if you're familiar with American Giant, but the purpose was to basically show that you can make great clothing in the US after all the clothing manufacturing had gone overseas. We made a big difference and had a great story to tell about what this country could do and the history of manufacturing and how we could try to bring it back. And then I moved to Rothy's, and Rothy's purpose was, footwear doesn't have to be fast fashion, right? Like the amount of shoes that are in landfills right now is extraordinary because people buy them, they're cheap, they fall apart. So we could make sustainable, high quality, cute, they have to be cute, shoes that will last forever. And we made them all out of plastic recycled water bottles. So every time you go to the website, there would be a water bottle counter that would show exactly, like to the second, how many water bottles we repurposed. So very cause oriented, very sustainable. Beauty Counter is a company that believes in clean beauty. So if you don't know about the industry, which I didn't know much about, there's a lot of junk that goes into makeup and skin products. So they basically stripped out, I think, 1,800 of the biggest offending products, ingredients, and launched this clean beauty brand, which again resonated with millions of women, just because people are starting to think about this stuff and take care of themselves.
Right.
And then at Rothy's, again, it's pretty unique in that we use insect protein instead of animal protein in our dog food and treats. And many people don't realize the enormous carbon, we call it the carbon paw print, that the pet industry has on the planet. 30 to 35% of the beef and chicken industry in this country goes to support the pet industry. So if you're a dog owner and you hear something like that, and you think about the land and the water and the greenhouse gas emissions that go into supporting that industry, it's a pretty easy thing to do if your dog likes the food and you believe in the mission, to switch to something that is just so much better for the planet. You can really make a difference in your own home. So my purpose has been to line up with kind of unique, differentiated brands. And then really Jiminy's purpose, we say we want happy pets, healthy planet, right? So it's good for the dog, it's good for the planet. And that's something that you can really carry through, to all aspects of your life, and really makes sense for anybody who owns a dog.
Well, Don, I must say that's very strong and purpose, I think, that you have, and how you're aligning your purpose with the brands that you're working for, because now more than ever is a time where consumers are becoming very conscious about the brands that they use or the products that they use. So they prefer products from brands which are socially responsible and taking all these initiatives, because it's not just the responsibility of bigger brands doing that. For example, Everlane doing it, like how they literally display everything, how they source till the time it reaches you, or other brands which are creating these sustainable best practices. So kudos to you. I mean, I think this model or this thought process itself is so powerful that ultimately I hope this has its own impact. Little by little, it will not happen overnight, but it will take time. But this is great. I mean, kudos to you. Excellent. Let's chat a little bit about the world that we are living in. 2020 has been extremely turbulent, not just for a normal consumer, but for businesses. And we all have to find our ways through it. What are some of the challenges that you faced in 2020? And now that we are on the road to recovery, how are you planning to accelerate your brand growth? Let me go to Wes.
Yeah, that's a great question. And for us specifically, it was very unique because during the pandemic, 2020 specifically when it started, and even 2021, a lot of things were revolving around single household, single individual activities.
Right.
And we saw massive increases in the athletic world of 50% increases from 2021 to 2020 in terms of kayak sales, stand-up paddleboard sales, boat, like a lot of people buying boats were 30% were the first time they've ever bought a boat. Like increases in sales were astronomical.
Right.
And our product specifically hits that. So for us, while we had a rocky 2020 in the beginning, we ended up increasing our sales significantly towards the end of the year and in this year. So it's been fairly good for us. But the opposite side of that coin, which is crazy, is while things are good, you're going to see some of the negative aspects. And what that is worldwide supply chain issues. So while we have this consumer channel and people want to buy our product, which is an amazing thing to have as a, smaller company, we're like, okay, great, let's sell you guys this product. But then we don't have the product to sell because our lead times would go from, 2 to 4 months to 5 to 7 to 8, because there's just not enough inventory, not enough product in the world for us to buy our fabrics and manufacturing. And then on top of that, manufacturers would shut down factories because of COVID outbreaks or have to expand how far people stand because of COVID. So, it's definitely a double-sided coin and sword for us, because sales were great, but supply chain was by far our biggest issue and still is to this day.
Wow. I mean, Wes, I must say that's a very tricky situation to deal with. On one side, you have a demand, and then the supply side constraints take its toll. And as you said it rightly, like how the consumers are going to like your products, especially now that consumers are going to be out, I think the demand again is going to skyrocket. So wow, you have a very, very tricky situation to deal with. Oh God, I think hope the supply chain issues get resolved. Great. Thank you for sharing that, Wes. Let me go to Juan and hear him out. Juan, what was the challenge that you faced, and how are you trying to take
it's
it
the
to the
same
next
challenge as Wes, actually. Supply chains, shipping, because all of our products are made in, first of all, they're made in overseas in China, right? We have car lifts, we have tire changes, we have wheel balancers. Basically, all the heavy equipment that we have is for garage shops, right? So first of all, shipping has been crazy. Literally, before we used to get containers of equipment that will come in a month. Now it's 3 or 4 months, right? Apart from that, steel surcharge. Steel has gone up crazy.
True.
So, for example, a container used to cost maybe $6,000, $7,000 to ship to the United States. Now it's 21,000, 25,000. So of course, with shipping going up, pricing has been going up. Surprisingly though, people are still buying. Because of course, cars are never going to go out of stock.
Right.
You're going to have, unfortunately, you're going to have car crashes all the time. You're going to need to fix cars, so at the end of the day, our sales went up incredibly. At first, actually back in March of last year, I was a little worried with everything that's going on. So I was literally probably the first one of my entrepreneurial friends, business owners, that told all my staff, hey, go home. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't want anybody to get hurt. I don't, so I literally, I sent everybody home to work from home back in March. And, then after that, the pandemic hit, and then everybody was working from home. At first, everybody was like, no, we'll be fine. No problem. Then the news started coming in, and then we're like, thank you for doing that, because we feel very safe. And they I guess they appreciated that, that I was taking care of my team. I was worried for about a month there, because I didn't know what was going to happen.
Yeah.
I spoke to a lot of marketing strategies, people that are amazing in marketing. And they were like, listen, this is the time to double down on your marketing, right? So at first, I spoke to my Google Paid Ads guy, and I was like, hey, listen, maybe we should bring down our budget a little bit. And he was like, hey, let's wait it out a week. That week passed. The amount of sales that came in were very low. And then I kind of held on for a little bit longer. I was like, let me wait another week. And after 2 weeks, sales just started coming in. Sales started coming in, and I was like, okay, it's working, right? So like I listened to what a friend of mine said, double down on your marketing. I did that. We put more budget in, we increased our budget, our ad spend budget, and everything just started going amazing for us, surprisingly.
Wow.
I was very, very grateful for that, um, so I started giving back to my team, started giving back to people that I need. So, which was, kind of, at the end of the day, like, it was helping people out. So it made me feel a little better too. But it was, when it came to the struggles that I had because of the pandemic, is supply chain.
Okay.
Pricing going up like crazy.
Mm.
And that is our biggest concern. However, I feel like we have a really good sales and customer service team that we're communicating with our clients
Mm.
on a daily basis to let them know what's happening. That way they're not, they don't get desperate and cancel all of our orders. Right now we have literally probably over 100 orders that are awaiting shipment still. But
Wow.
thanks to our team, we're managing it correctly.
Wow. So Juan, that's a great problem to solve actually, and it's tricky as just like Wes, and but I hope the solution find its way, and because the whole demand supply balance has got disturbed, and of course it's not that easy. At one side, you do your marketing to drive traffic to your site, but if you can't fulfill the product or the order, it's a double-edged sword, because in that case the whole experience goes out for a toss, where the consumer says, hey, I ordered it, it's not there, and then you can be honest about it that, hey, it's the supply chain constraints, it's going to come at that point. So very tricky, I must say. Let's talk about it a little bit, how 2022 unfolds for all of us going forward. Don, let me come to you, and if you can share the problem that you faced in 2020 and how you tackled it, and what's the strategy for 2022 acceleration for your business.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. Interestingly enough, supply chain was not as big of an issue for us because we source most of our ingredients here in the US. So we had some, like everybody did, but that wasn't a big challenge. I would say the biggest challenge for us actually has turned into an opportunity, which was at the beginning of 2020, we were still a very young brand, primarily selling through brick and mortar stores, small pet stores, small independents. And when the pandemic hit, that obviously completely dried up. We were, we had a digital presence, and the plan was always to build out that digital presence, but the pandemic kind of accelerated that. So, challenge in that, we had to reconfigure our marketing mix and allocate resources, but opportunity because obviously the digital channel is where we are going to know the most about our customer, where we can have the most impact, where we know we wanted to grow anyway. So it was it forced us probably sooner than we would have to really invest in the digital channel. But what we realized is that the building blocks that we had in place were not really great, right? We're on WooCommerce, which is great for lots of brands, but it's not Shopify. So we are moving over to Shopify next month. We had an email service provider that was MailChimp, right? And that just wasn't working as we grew. So we had to move over to Klaviyo, which has been great. So lots of little, rebuild the foundation things that we needed to do, and we're still in the process of doing. As a result, I would say our digital marketing efforts, we still have a lot of fine tuning that we can do because we're just kind of behind where we would be if we'd launched this as a direct consumer business. So, the great thing is that we've also, during the pandemic, from a brand perspective, we've attracted a lot of attention from the big players in the pet space. So Petco has a partnership with us. We're one of their sustainable brands. We're in all Petco stores. Wow. We're looking at some of the other big box retailers for 2022. So that part of the business continued to grow, but we spent a lot more time and energy investing into the direct channels, Amazon, Chewy, and then obviously Jimmy's.com.
Wow, Don, I must say that's very, very interesting. So you don't have a supply side constraint, so you took care of that. And wow, what an opportunity. In fact, like 2020 being so challenging, you managed to get those big breakthrough by working with this brand. That's excellent. That's a big testimonial in itself, that how they perceive your brand and how the consumers are going to perceive your brand. That's an excellent testimonial, I must say. Great. Gentlemen, let's talk a little bit about the world that we are living in, and let's talk about marketing. We are all living in crowded space. We have so many channels to deal with on a day-to-day basis as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, and you have to find a balance between the marketing that you're doing across channel, and accordingly, as channels grow, the marketing budget increases day by day. And of course, the channels are open, everyone is marketing on it. How do you find that distinction? How do you make sure that you are getting the right ROI? And which channels do you prefer and which are working best for you? Wes?
I mean, that's an incredible question, and that's the name of the game, right?
Yeah.
It's a science and an art at the same time.
Yes.
I think for us, 2020 was really cool for us because we always knew we wanted to be really direct consumer. I'm partial against kind of like retail shops just because the margins and the way that people shop, and as someone who shops myself, I just wasn't really, our product wasn't specific for that world. So when trying to figure out how to market people on the digital space, we really tried everything in the beginning, like threw money at, not a ton, but just kind of across the board and see what stuck. And what we found in 2020 was that, Instagram and Facebook were really good options for us in terms of just basic ads and really trying to figure out our demographic and what our brand story was, and how we want to develop our brand equity. Do we want to be funny? Do we want to be creative? Do we want to be more like active? And really just trying to develop that. So we tested everything. And what we found was that while Instagram and Facebook have been really successful for us, and they're great for just churning out like consistent basic content, what has been insanely successful for us was YouTube. The reason being is that I didn't fully understand what YouTube was. In the fact that I'm 32 and I feel like I kind of grew up in the time where YouTube was becoming something. And I still go on YouTube for when I'm trying to fix something, or how to fix, a brake light, or how to fix like a ding in my surfboard. And I YouTube that. But the way that I found that people younger than me, and even others are utilizing it these days, is almost like a platform of TV. And the fact that they will, every Friday, a specific YouTuber will release an episode of what they did this past week. And at that time period, on that Friday morning, every one of their followers, or at least a large percentage, will watch almost like an episode, like we used to do back in the day when it was like 7 p.m. on a Thursday.
True.
So what we found is that directly targeting YouTube people who utilize our product, or are in the world of our product, and can just put a code or just send them a product and say, hey, test it out, let us know what you think. And then throwing ads to retarget those specific views has been, the sales have gone out the roof. And the reason being is because you start realizing that, you can target people on Instagram and Facebook based on interests, but people are actively searching on YouTube for that interest.
Correct.
And if they're going to say, I want to know how to fix my surfboard, and then they see an ad of our product that directly targets that consumer specifically, it's like it hits them doubly. So we've really started putting a lot of our efforts into that, and then investing in high quality content that can hit them into that space. And it's been pretty successful.
Wow, yes. That's excellent insight that you shared there. Like, so you played across all the channels, and then you identified a channel which is working really great for you. But that's great, because I think there's a lot of effort involved in that, but you find that niche. So YouTube is a great channel, and I hope you're getting the best ROI, as you mentioned. So that's great.
Still working on it, but yes. Yep.
Oh, wonderful. Let's go to Juan also. And Juan, what channels has worked best for you? Absolutely, you're doing Google Ads and all, but others, and just share your experience.
So I'm in a different space, right? I do more business to business, right? Because we're targeting people in the automotive, like, shops, basically auto repair shops, right? So what has been working for us amazingly since day one has always been Google Shopping. Right, Google Shopping and SEO has been, I mean, it's as basic as it sounds, it's the backbone of where most of our business comes from, right? Then of course, Facebook retargeting, all those type of stuff like does work as well. But and what I actually got heavily into last year and this year has been email marketing. You know, working with Clavio, for example, as Don said, has been amazing as well for our company. You know, doing segmenting each of our clients, right? Whether they're an auto repair shop or an auto body shop, right? So obviously they're two different businesses, even in the same industry, but we target in different ways, right? And we know that, for example, our clientele will continue to purchase on a monthly basis different type of equipment, right, or tools. So let's say they buy XYZ tool on month one, they're probably going to need accessories, parts, or whatever, or just different products that will add on to the product that they bought on the first month. So we have created basically flows of emails that will hit them, will hit their inbox every month, asking them, hey, you bought XYZ item, you need to buy this now, or you probably need these parts because the cables have been worn down or the pads have been worn down. So like that's how we continue to target. But like I said, I'm pretty much like basically we do a lot of SEO, a lot of Google Shopping. Google Shopping has been great for us, and email marketing. Apart from that, what I'm trying to get into now is, as Wes said, like doing the YouTube stuff. Like building a community through like I guess marketing tips and management tips that we're doing for our clientele, right? So, for example, how to bring in more clients to your auto repair shop, right? We blog that, and we put that out on LinkedIn, we put that out on YouTube, we put that out all over the place. And who's going to read that? Usually the decision makers of these businesses that I'm trying to target, right? So they read that, they see that, hey, like, these guys are not just trying to sell equipment, they're really trying to help us, right? Of course, they're not going to buy right away, but at least they keep our name, JMC Equipment, in their mind. So when they do need something, whether it is, 6 months, a year down the line, they'll come back to us, right? Because what's important for me is to build a loyal clientele throughout the lifetime of they do business on, not just a one-time sale, but the lifetime of. And most people are in business, not everyone, but most people will stay in business for 5, 10, even 20 years. So if we become their go-to guys for everything, they're gonna love us.
Yeah,
That's excellent.
To build on that real quick, Juan, you made a great point. I mean, loyal customer base and creating that community is so essential. It's really figuring out, because then once you figure out the true people who are coming back to buy, to read, and everything. Yes. And at some point you have a perfect like demographic or target market that you can say, okay, these are the people that are consistently interacting with my brand. How do I figure out how to expand that community, utilize them to spread the word? But if you start small and build that community, it's great work.
Absolutely.
So that's awesome.
Like blogging like that has opened a lot of doors in the automotive industry without even asking for it. So it's funny. It's really funny and what blogging and helping people out has brought to my favor.
Wow, yeah, this is great. I mean, why this is great, because I think what works for Wes is so there is an overlap. At the same time, there is something unique. So what works for Wes may not work for Juan, or vice versa. But I think there is a little bit of overlap, and there is always an area of opportunity in terms of the channel, I think the engagement and the community that can be built, so that when the consumer actually is going to make the purchase decision, that brand recall about your brand name would be so significant that they won't even think twice, because they have heard about it several times. So that's an excellent insight for any entrepreneur or for any business out there. Let me go to Don also and hear about his thoughts. Don, channel that has worked for you and how has been your ROI?
It's funny. I think we're about maybe 9 months behind Wes with our digital marketing. We sort of started with, spreading ourselves very thin across multiple platforms, realized that that was not the best way to really learn anything because our budgets didn't support enough spend to actually get the data. So we kind of retrenched into Facebook, Instagram, Google, and that's where we are right now. We're kind of testing audiences, creative, trying to understand what resonates, with the idea of taking those learnings and then going back out into the channels that make sense. YouTube is very interesting to us. So Wes, great to hear that story. Obviously, surfers, outerwear, pet owners, there's natural sort of communities that exist on YouTube with a lot of interest. And I think it's a little bit, at our size, making a bet on something like YouTube, which may or may not work, is it's a little scary, but we realize that you got to start taking chances to move the needle, and we're really looking closely at doing that. I love the ideas of retargeting them, Wes, based on views, right? So they may not get the promo code in the show, but then you can keep serving stuff up to them and keep hitting them, and you just know they're going to be interested. Email marketing has been great for us. That's probably been from the get-go, our single best channel. But it's really, for us, it's really more of a retention, life cycle marketing, LTV channel, because for the most part, you're speaking to the customers that you already have. We do a lot of content. We do a lot of blogs on the health benefits and the environmental benefits. And Juan, interesting to hear from you that you're sort of posting those things on LinkedIn and traditional business channels. We usually just, again, email our customer base, but I'm realizing that you can kind of go broader with something like that, just to, again, keep people top of mind. And then I would say one of our challenges is, because we're not just direct to consumer, for a marketing perspective, we need to consider channels that are going to drive all of our sort of sales channels. And those are often different and harder to measure than the direct to consumer piece. So, daily I have to make decisions saying, do I want to take X and put it back into Facebook because I can see the results, or do I want to take X times 2 and do a podcast test, or do a YouTube test, or something that might drive people into Petco or into brick and mortar or to Amazon, where we can't measure it, but we know that's part of the growth strategy and we want to be good partners. So that's a constant challenge that I haven't figured out the answer to, but I think what it takes is just a little bit of faith, right? You need to think that whatever you're putting in that, podcasting for us, we just feel the narrative that I described earlier on the call, like it's a story that can be told. Right. So we feel like that's going to be a good channel for us. But if we put a big test in place, and we would probably say at the end of the read, like, Jimny's.com, here's a promo code, or available at all Petcos. And a lot of people are going to go to Petco, and we might be able to see some sort of lift, but maybe not. So it's really kind of trusting your gut instinct that the right message, who's going to resonate with, doing your best with the targeting, and then just kind of knowing that you're just doing the right thing, and awareness is going to sort of lift the tide in all of your channels and just make that performance marketing perform better, right? If someone has heard you on a podcast, even if they don't buy from you or from Petco, if then they go to Instagram or to YouTube and they see it, they're already aware and then more likely to convert.
Absolutely. Very well said, Don, I must say, because all these channels have a very significant impact in the brand recall story. And now more than ever, I think it's all about this omni-channel presence. I mean, we can't just ignore it, because your consumers, you don't know from which channel they're going to come from. So it's best to be present across channels and then leverage the potential of each channel in order to convey your brand story. Because most of the time, it's not just about the conversions that you're looking for, but it's about that engagement or that entry into the consumer's mind subconsciously, because that's the most important thing in marketing that the entire brands, like every brand, is trying to do. And I think you're doing all those experiments. That's excellent, because that's the only way that you get those data points and then figure out where to spend your marketing dollar. Excellent. Gentlemen, let's talk a little bit about digital disruption that we are going to experience. I mean, it's happening already. So we have, on one hand, we have all these amazing channels, and then we are living in a world where privacy is becoming more and more it's not just a topic anymore. It's actually becoming important. Consumers these days are more aware about their privacy rights, and in such a world that we are living in, the tools that they're using is going to make it more and more difficult for advertising or for engagement or targeting the right demographics. So, what are your thoughts on how do you plan to tackle it? Definitely, it's not that easy. There will be some solution that might come out, but from an entrepreneur's perspective, how do you look at it? And like 2022, 23 going forward, it's going to become extremely difficult. Apple is disrupting it. Google is trying to figure it out. Every big company like Google is facing lawsuit in European Union because of the privacy issues. So it's happening. So as a brand owner who wants to target the right audience, how do you look at it? What are your thoughts? Let me go to Wes.
Yeah, that's definitely always on my mind. And, I kind of live very much in the present in terms of our marketing. And the reason being is just, we are a very small team, 3 people. So it's very tough for me to think like 2 years in the advance. That being said, we've already seen this happen in very smaller cases. For instance, the way social media platforms change their algorithms, and they do this without people knowing sometimes, and you just adapt. You just have to adapt. So, I mean, my first instinct on all of this, and I was told this, 2 years ago, is grow your customer base in every way possible on every platform possible. Like, if tomorrow Spotify stopped like allowing you to listen to music, I don't know where I would find music, and that's a problem. What I think is essential though, and this is the same thing, if Instagram all of a sudden closed down tomorrow, I also think that would be a huge problem for a lot of influencers. Where would they find their information, or where would they be able to post, or would they be able to generate revenue if they are a quote unquote influencer? So I think what's essential is getting onto as many platforms as possible, email marketing, like you're saying, Instagram, even TikTok these days, depending on your brand. I mean, like if you can build a following and a group of people on each platform, then you'll start to be able to see how's your ROI changed based on platforms, how's your engagement changed based on platforms. So it just really changes depending on your situation. And I really think that, privacy laws are going to come into effect in these next couple of years significantly, and they're going to start affecting more and more platforms. You just have to figure out, what's your best route and what's the best ROI. But my initial suggestion is just like, get out there and start testing everything, because everyone's attention spans are so short these days, that if you test something today and it's an utter failure, tomorrow people are not going to remember it, but at least you tested it out, and you can see if that channel worked.
Absolutely, Wes. And let me go to Don for it and hear his thoughts on this.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with Wes that it's, it is already having an impact, and it's going to only get more difficult. I mean, I can just tell you in the last 6 weeks, my frustration as I look at my, weekly, paid reports, and the Facebook data, it just gets less and less accurate. Yeah, right. And what was so attractive about it is now frustrating. So in some ways, it makes it easier to take a swing on something like podcasts, which is also harder to measure. But now if Facebook is getting a little less accurate, then why not? It makes it easier for us to take some of those risks in some of these new channels, which again, I agree with Wes, just try everything. One of the things we're doing, and this is, I'm sure everyone's doing this, but we're small enough that we're starting to, with our Facebook and Instagram ads, focus on specific like acquisition offers. So a subscription of this, a free bag of this drives you into, this type of subscription. And we're skewing that product. Yeah. So we can take the Facebook data, the click, the views, and then we can stitch those together with the actual conversions of that product and get a better sense of, what a CPA might be, or and we can also do promo codes in GA, right? Like unique promo codes. If we know we're always going to use the same code, and you can start building some data on that, over 3-4 months. Google Analytics is not perfect, but it's I think better than what we're getting out of Facebook these days. So those are two things we're doing specifically to try to get a better understanding as the environment changes in Facebook and Instagram. And then, as it gets less direct ROI, it allows us to broaden the lens of what we're willing to try, because you can't just lean back on like, well, I know exactly where every dollar is going on Facebook, so I can't get out of that. So it's kind of given us a little bit of freedom, actually.
Interesting, very interesting. So it's all about trying to figure out a solution, because it's difficult and now more than ever. So let's see how the world is going to evolve, the advertising world is going to evolve, keeping in mind the privacy concerns. So there's a very interesting debate going on that. Let me go to Juan and ask him a different question, which is around, Juan, the business that you are in, it's definitely B2B and B2C both. And what are your plans for the business for the next 10 years? Why I'm asking this, definitely because of the way things are. It's a competitive world. So how do you plan on differentiating your business vis-a-vis the competition? What are your thoughts?
So I guess it kind of like goes back to basically the last question that you asked, right? Like right now we're doing Google Shopping and SEO and email marketing, right? Now, how do we differentiate ourselves, right? Start a podcast. Like, I really want to start a podcast this, the next couple of months, interviewing successful people in our industry, right? Like what did this XYZ successful business owner did to become that successful? What did he do, right? And I also want, in that same podcast, what I want to do is I also want to talk about not just their wins, but their losses. Because as I'm sure everybody here in this panel and everybody that's going to listen to this, as an entrepreneur, you go up and down. You go up and down. There's wins, there's losses. You want to quit sometimes. You're successful other times. So I think it's very interesting for people to hear about that. Because it kind of just inspires people to like, okay, I'm going through this right now.
Right.
Other people have gone through this. And by listening to the podcast, interviewing people in the automotive industry, I think that would be very, very, I would differentiate myself with everyone, because nobody in none of my competitors are doing that. There are podcasts in the automotive industry, but not nobody that does what I do, right? Great. Apart from that, for example, an idea that actually just came up while you guys were talking, right, was literally doing like a weekly video of, let's say, me or anybody or somebody that in my team, going to visit clients, checking out what they have, doing installations of the car lifts, doing checkups of the equipment that we sold, which makes it interesting, because at the end of the day, like, it's like, you're going to the business, you're seeing what works, you're seeing what doesn't work. Other people can learn what they're doing, and at the end of the day is giving back, giving back to our industry, giving back to people, inspiring people to continue to listen to us, to follow us, to see what they're doing. Me as a car guy, I love all types, any show that is related to car guys, right? I just went to a racing event this weekend, and I love that, right? And most people in the industry, this is a passion industry, as I'm sure Wes and Don's industry is as well, right? You get into it because you love cars, you love to make cars faster, and that just fuels the fire of the people that are getting into this industry, right? Apart from that, my 10-year plan, I guess, is to buy smaller products, smaller brands, making the JMC equipment name bigger, right? That way we don't just own, because right now all we are is an e-commerce site that distributes equipment all throughout the United States, right? What I want to do is start to buy brands, start to buy products that are unique in the automotive industry, and that way we own not just JMC equipment. Now we're owning brands. We are owning actual products that we can sell. And right now, luckily, I'm getting a lot of opportunity to buy these type of brands. We're not in the position right now to buy these brands, but eventually we will, right? So. Great. So doing that, buying brands, becoming an authority in the industry, starting a podcast, starting a video show, per se, what's going on in our office, what's going on when we go visit clients. That's just going to make it a little better. And I think at the end of it all, what I'm trying to say is to build a community in your industry and give back as much as possible, because you give back. And like I tell all my guys, man, I tell you teach the client how to make money with the equipment that we sell, they're gonna love you forever. Right. And that's more B2B. I don't think it's too much B2C, but it's more B2B, right? You buy XYZ item. This XYZ item costs, let's say, $5,000, right? How quickly can you get this money back and make more money with this item, right? Which I think is like when I was I don't sell as much, I'm not on the phone as much, but when I was on the phone all the time, I created a picture in the client's mind of how he can make money with this item or a better item. You know, and most people when they're getting in, they don't know exactly what to do. And with that, they had a better understanding of how to make money in their businesses, which is kind of like I said, one of my purposes is to make them better. And so
wonderful. That's very thoughtful, I must say, because it's all about getting into the consumer's mind. It's all about knowing what are their pain points and then being there for them, helping them, and then earning their trust ultimately, which is rewarding. And that comes back to you because that consumer itself becomes your brand ambassador. And of course, it's going to drive down the acquisition cost because that's what the objective of the business is, that over a period of time that you don't have to spend your marketing budget should be sustainable and it's giving you the right ROI. So excellent thought process there. Let me quickly go to Wes and ask him, Wes, the product that you sell is a very niche product meant for outdoor sports. So, and if you might have done your own research in terms of the target audience, like the number, basically in the numbers game. So what is your vision for Driftline for the next 5 or 10 years? Like how many consumers you want to reach to? Definitely that can be, let's say, a sample size. Again, you have a very unique set of people who are going to buy your product. So not everyone is going to be a consumer. So have you done some research around what could be the potential number of potential consumers buying your product? Why I ask this question is because as a brand owner, once you know your target audience, then accordingly, you know where to spend your budget or where to spend money or how to get more creative in order to tap into that audience, because you're not selling a generic apparel. It's a very unique thing that's needed for a very special occasion. So that's the context behind the question. Yeah.
Cool. And that's incredibly well said, because I'm going to bring in what Juan just said, and kind of a hot take from my end is he kept talking about video and podcast. Yeah. I personally think that, and this is just me, that photos are kind of dead. I think video and audio is the future. And if you want to scale and grow, that's how you're going to do it. High quality, both of those, and you're going to go. And to answer your question, Kuldeep, I have done the research, and I think this probably comes from my finance background, is how I can figure out something to scale. Because it's great if you want to build a product and just be sustainable and as a business and just really operate. But I think most entrepreneurs, they create a business because they love it, but they create a business because they want to expand and selfishly get your product or your service out to as many people as possible, because we're all a little self-delusional and we all think that our thing should be in everyone else's hands. So I actually have done a ton of research on this, and I expanded my search outside of apparel, because what I feel is our product is technical within the apparel space. And our patent's going to play a lot into that. But I have done a lot of research in the water sports, like tech and gear world. And that's actually about a $42 billion industry. And that means like scuba equipment, like snorkel equipment, wetsuits, etc. And we fit into that category rather than just normal bathing suits. So that $42 billion industry is actually looking to grow. Like the consumer average growth rate is actually about 5% and should be around mid 50 billion in 2025. And this is just honestly just me doing nerdy number research and just kind of figuring out, am I in an industry that's going to grow, or am I going to have to pivot our branding to be suited to more of the apparel world? But to find out that the technical side of our brand is growing is incredible. So I'm latching on to that. And, like the other two panelists, just trying to find this consumer base and this community that is going to utilize our product. And whether it's podcasts and going on a podcast show where we talk about the tech aspect of it, where we talk about the mindset of it rather than like apparel and fabric, that's going to really be huge for our brand, because people are going to say, oh, I'm willing to spend a little bit more for this product. It's a technical product. So it's really kind of just honestly doing your own research. I'm my own target demographic as well, as I'm sure these other two guys are as well. It's so I've been able to really get out there, but I think that's such an important aspect, is you have to do a lot of research outside of just looking at Google Analytics and Facebook ads. Like talk to your consumers, like Juan was saying, like go talk to the shops, see what's working, what's not working, and if they like it or they don't, and then adapt.
That's wonderful. That's a very thoughtful approach, Wes, and it's going to give you all the answers, because I think, as you mentioned about the total addressable market, that's big. $42 billion is big. And I mean, even if you're able to tap, let's say, 5 or 10% of it, you're set for life. But yes, for that research, you need to learn what are the pain points, the buyer persona, and then it becomes so easy to convey that story, because we are living in a crowded world, and the ad space is becoming more and more costlier day by day. And so I think once you know the buyer persona, you can creatively figure out a way how to reach that. That's wonderful. Great to know that asking the question is the most important thing, because I think that's when you get all the answers from the consumers. It's excellent. Let me go to Don. And Don, from your own experience while working in the field of marketing, pairing these different brands, how do you look at the channels? I mean, what I'm trying to ask is, as a marketer, what will you do in order to create that distinction, or in order to create your brand presence felt across the channel? Because let's say, just like your brand, there are 10 other brands which sells pet foods, and they are also doing marketing. So what are some unique things or ideas that you would like to kind of execute in your marketing strategy in order to create that distinction? Why I ask this question is, when you go to an Instagram, as you scroll, you keep on getting the same kind of ads, typically, depending upon what you are getting targeted with. So what will you do to create that distinction?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think there's probably a couple of answers. I think the first thing is, in a category like pet, you really want to build the brand. You want to focus on building the brand and making people understand what you stand for. So happy pets, healthy planet, really tying that in across all of our channels and getting people to understand exactly what the value proposition and why they should buy. Give them a great reason to buy. The marketing of that itself is you want to have probably innovative, whatever is in the channel, you want to have great assets, great content, great photography, good packaging. We have very good packaging. We pop off the shelf, and I don't know why other pet food companies aren't doing it. Maybe they will, but you want to have something that looks great as you're walking down the aisles of Petco. And then I think, again, this isn't really marketing, but it's the foundational piece that you then market, but real innovation in the space. So we're already pretty innovative because of our use of insect protein, but we only have kibble and treats. So we're going to develop a wet dog food that's going to be, have all the same benefits, but, live in a different part of the shelf and attract a different consumer. We're developing some innovative treats. I actually have a bag right now. We're developing, these are called the Nooch Puff. So they're kind of, they're Cheetos, but they are vegan. They use nutritional yeast and they use the insect protein. And there's a fun play there. They're human grade. So, one for you, one for your dog. We are eventually going to get into cat. So that's going to help certainly expand our TAM, but we feel like we have an opportunity in dog to keep running for probably another 18 months or so. So building the brand, building out the innovative assortment, and then, really just delivering that message in a way that's clear, so customers don't think they're buying dog food; they think they're buying Jiminy's, right? Just less product focused, more brand focused.
Absolutely. Yeah, you nailed it, I must say, because yeah, sometimes typically when people want to buy, they if they can not say that they want to buy this product, but they want to buy this brand. I think that's a big thing. If that happens, it's going to be a game changer. But yes, of course, it takes time and it's a patience game. And of course, you have to do a lot of experiments. But I think once you hit the nail, you can do it. I think it's just a matter of experimenting more and creating that distinction. Just like I still remember, I think you guys might have seen it, or probably if you get a chance, just see that 1984 ad that Apple has put in, where Steve Jobs spent like $1 million that time, which if I make it to this, like in 2021, that's like billions of dollars. So I saw that ad and I was like blown away. What's the relationship of that ad with the product? I mean, it's so unique. And so that's what I think. And that's when people started to realize it's all about creating that distinction in your marketing message. It has to be brief, simple, thought provoking, and something that can resonate with the consumers, because that's what they try to do. Think Different campaign there. They did not talk about their product, but they talked about the philosophy and how that their product is a tool for the mind. And that's when definitely it's a great product and definitely it's a great marketing. So I think for brand growth, or it's a year, it takes 20 years, 30 years, but it's a patience game. And as you keep on doing it, you can win that. So I think these are great insights that Wes, Juan, and Donna shared. I think this can be game changer. They're going to inspire any aspiring entrepreneur or someone who's already running the business, that they can apply these ideas, because the ideas that you guys have shared today are like extremely important, because most of the time they go unnoticed. I think these attention to detail that can be really rewarding. I think that's what, because ultimately every marketeer is looking for ROI, and that can only be achieved by doing data-driven decision making and doing it using the right tools at the right time to reach the target audience. Gentlemen, as we are coming an end to the panel discussion, we have this tradition where we ask this one piece of advice that you would like to give to, let's say, someone within your family who comes to you and asks you, hey, I want to launch a business, or someone from your connections come to you and ask you for that advice. The advice can be so many, but from your own learnings and experiences, if that one thing that you would like to share with your loved one, what will that be? Let me go to Don.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, and this is easier said than done, right? But I would say, be different, right? Like differentiate yourself or your idea or your brand from everyone else in the space, and then lean into that as you build the company, because there's a lot of stuff out there, and there's a lot of people who have to make a lot of choices. And if you can place yourself in a spot where you're noticeable for whatever reason, you're just going to have a leg up from the get-go.
Wonderful. Be different. Wonderful. Excellent, Don. Thank you. Juan?
So I would say pick an industry that you love, that you're really passionate about. That way you can talk about it, right? In different ways. Become an expert at it, and don't give up. Because there's in any industry, or in any endeavor that you take, there's going to be times that you're going to feel like you're against the wall, whether it's economically, because or whatever reason it may be, right? Don't give up. Push through those times where you want to give up, and luckily, if you make the right decisions, you will be, first of all, because you went through that hard time, you're going to become much stronger, much wiser, and you're going to know, and you're going to be ready to tackle more harder projects and difficult situations. Because like I said before, it's becoming an entrepreneur, right?
Absolutely.
Once you get through this hard, you're going to be good. Then you're going to go through another downturn. Probably more difficult than the last one, but all these difficult times will prepare you for the next.
Wow, that's excellent advice, Juan, I must say. Let's go to Wes.
I will say create a hard exterior, even though you're can be soft, and then get creative. And what I mean by that is, get creative, test everything, try things. People will forget if you fail, but they'll congratulate you when you succeed. Like you'll get comments, you'll get everything, but just test and get creative and be different. And then with that is get a little hardened, because people are going to say, that's not going to work. Your idea is not great. That ad's stupid. It happens. It's part of the game, and you can't take this stuff personally. You just have to know that your product, your service, your idea is something that you believe in. And if you really do believe in it, just move forward.
Wow. Excellent. Yes, I must say, because I think I really enjoyed today's panel discussion, and I would like to take this opportunity to say thank you to each one of you for taking out time today, and for openly sharing all the insights and the secret sauce. And I think now more than ever is a time to give and share, and I think that comes back to you. And I think you guys have shared some excellent advice and insights about how you are doing business, what's your growth strategy, and the learnings that you had on the way. I think Juan mentioned it's like a sine wave. Doing a business is like a sine wave. So you have to be ready for all those moments. And if you're ready, sky's the limit. What Don has said about be different, and then being responsible. I think as a brand owner, when you take responsibility, and if your cause is bigger, consumers love that, consumers appreciate that. And what Don has entered into, creating that socially and sustainable business, that's an excellent piece that I really liked. I really admire brands when they talk about it. Now more than ever, we really need to talk hard and take that stand, because we have just this one single planet. We're not going to get, everyone is not going to get the ticket for Mars or moons. We have this only planet that we have to take care of. So that's one thing. And what Wes has mentioned about develop a thick skin, because people are going to come at you and tell you it's not going to work. But if you are persistent, it will definitely work, and you will find your way in by being creative. So with this, thank you, gentlemen. Thank you so much, Wes. Once again, thank you, Juan. Thank you, Don, for joining the panel today. We would love to chat with you again in the future panel discussion, maybe on some other topic, and to make it a rewarding experience. I'll be in touch. I'll be sharing the panel discussion with you soon. And you guys have a great week ahead. Talk to you guys soon. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
That was fun.
Wes, Don, nice meeting you guys.
Thank
Nice
you.
meeting you guys.